Hello and welcome to the Period Panel. We are delighted to have Izzy Bartak Healy with us today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So first off, Izzy, tell us a bit about yourself. You're working in television and radio and have a great passion for fitness.
Yeah, that's basically it. I suppose I've been working in radio for the past 10 years. I actually studied media and journalism in Griffith College in Cork. And so I always knew I wanted to do radio and TV. It was kind of just how to get into it because it is quite a hard industry to get into. So I won a competition with a radio station called RedFM. And the running joke is that I'm like the DJ for a day that never went away because 10 years later, I'm still working there and I kind of worked my way up the ranks. And I've had full-time shows that have been thankfully so successful. And then quite recently, I actually took a bit of a step back from radio just to pursue TV a little bit more. So I'm doing more work with Ireland AM as their showbiz correspondent. And then, so my boyfriend owns a gym called Echo Athletics. So I have a huge passion for fitness. I have, I suppose, done CrossFit style training for the past 5 years or so. And I actually help him out a little bit by helping him organize events and stuff. So a lot going on all the time, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
What does a typical week look like for you? It sounds pretty busy.
Yeah, well, you know what? Every week is different for me. So like I could be working full time in the radio station. They might need me to cover a drive time show. So I could be there Monday to Friday. And then I do my Saturday afternoon show. I could be doing TV then on, say, a Sunday morning. Or I could be up and down to Dublin for events or running events for Echo Athletics in Cork. And then, of course, I have all my online work as well. So I'm with an agency in Dublin. So that's quite fun as well. And that's actually great because that's how I got introduced to Active Iron. So yeah, it's great. I love my industry just because I suppose there's so many different things to be doing and so many different opportunities, which is why I'm here talking to you now.
When there's a busy lifestyle, like obviously you can be asking your body of a lot, and it's important to look after your body and making sure that you're giving it what it needs to keep going and keep ticking along. So how do you make sure that you manage this and that you don't, kind of fall apart or crash at any point?
Yeah. Like I suppose the older I get, and I'm at the late stage of my 20s, so I feel strange saying that, but the older I get, the more I realize what my body needs, just listening to myself more, knowing that I need to get enough sleep. It's not kind of like, oh, that would be great. It's like, no, I need that. Because if I sleep well, then my energy levels are good. Then I have strength. If I'm drinking enough water, I feel hydrated. But on top of that, it's taking the right supplements. So it's making sure that my energy levels are good. It's making sure that my gut health is good. It's making sure that I have vitamin D and vitamin C. And just like, honestly, it's routine and looking after your body. And I suppose when I say that to people, and I remember even someone saying that to me years ago, I was thinking like, God, that sounds really boring. But I think if you want results, and I think if you want to have energy levels and you want to be going full throttle with work all the time and projects, and then I suppose just thinking about my training as well, like I'm always trying to up my game with training, especially with, I suppose, the movements that I do. There's so many cool gymnastics movements in CrossFit that I want to get better at. I'm like, okay, how can I do toes to bar? How can I up that this week? How can I strengthen my pull-ups? And I think that all comes from supplements, making sure you get enough sleep, making sure you get enough water, and then just looking after yourself. Because I think that if I don't get those things on a regular basis, then I think you start having like a negative impact on, say, your mental health. And then if your mental health is bad, then everything just kind of goes. And then all of a sudden, you're getting your factors for feeling run down. So with me, it's cold sores. So I know straight away when I'm run down, I have a cold sore. So it's just making sure I'm keeping on top of everything really. And it is routine is key for sure.
Mm-hmm. And you've already mentioned Active Iron, but you are an ambassador for them. So tell us a bit about this.
Yes. So Active Iron, I suppose, came into my life maybe about a year and a half ago. I can't really remember it, but I think someone had gotten on to me to try some of their products. And so I started taking Active Immune and I saw fantastic results with that. Just again, routine, taking my supplements properly, boosting my immune system. And at the time as well, the Active Immune, I think it has vitamin D in it. And I just remember thinking, okay, that's been linked with making sure you're not getting COVID. And I just felt like supplements are so important. And then I started taking the Active Iron as well, which I saw a big difference in my energy levels. And I also just wanted to work with Active Iron as well, because I just thought it was so important to I suppose explain to women on my platform how important iron is to our bodies. You know what I mean? So like I would always say to someone, if they don't take it, obviously consult a doctor and see do they need it. But I think you know, some of the population, maybe, you know, we're all still not educated on what we need all the time, you know, like I feel like schools need to talk more about diet and what we need in our bodies to fuel at our best. And that's why I love talking about active iron and the benefits of it, and just kind of showing and telling women that, like, okay, we need that because we get a period once a month, you are losing, you know, blood, and you need to put that back into your body. And it's something that I suppose maybe I didn't realize for years either. Oh, did I need that? And was that something for me? So yeah, I just thought it was really important to get on board.
Well, you mentioned that you noticed that your energy levels had improved. So what other kind of differences did you notice?
Yeah, so for me, it was mainly energy. And just, I suppose it was so fascinating for me to learn about why we need it in our bodies and the difference it could make. But it's just a fantastic supplement to, I suppose, complement with other supplements that you have as well. And I think that when I started doing that, I really noticed that my energy was just better. And, you know, just being able to fuel my body more to do those 5 sessions a week, it was fantastic.
Yeah, because certainly if you're training on top of like travel and all that type of thing, like it probably takes more out of you than you expect. And like we think that we're bulletproof and able to be all go all the time, but like it really does eventually catch up with you.
Yeah, and even like just factors like, you know, winter getting involved there as well, and like going from hot to cold all the time, and you wouldn't even realize kind of what takes it out of you. So again, it's just making sure my body is fueled to its fullest, so that elements like that I'm not hit so much with, and that's what supplements are at the end of the day. It's like putting a barrier on your body, an extra barrier, so that if you do come into contact with something, you know, that you have a really strong immunity to fight something.
And in terms of your menstrual cycle, do you notice anything different kind of throughout the phases? Like in terms of energy levels or anything like that?
Well, what I always say to people is, like, you know, I would say to someone, keep a diary. So like figure out when you feel you're strongest in the gym, and then, you know, have a look at, if you use an app to look at your cycle or whatnot, and figure out like what area of your period or your menstrual cycle you were on, and figure out, okay, I'm strongest here in my 3rd week, I'm strongest here in my 2nd week, and take it from there. But to be honest, like I find every week different for me, or every month different for me, and I'm just the kind of person that just goes with it. You know, say for instance, if I'm on my period and I'm training, some weeks or even some months, I know that won't bother me. You know what I mean? I just think it's so important to listen to your body. You know, like if you're having a day where you don't feel strong or you feel tired, like that is your body maybe telling you to rest. And I know it's always hard to figure out, like, should I rest or should I go to the gym? And I'm always fighting with that as well. Like I'd be asking 5 people, like, okay, I've gone already a few times this week, but my energy levels aren't as good as last week. So I think it's, if I could give any advice to anyone, it would just be listen to your body. You know, it doesn't matter what phase of the cycle you're in, just listen to your body and go from that. If you're feeling strong, go to the gym and lift heavy weights. If you're feeling weak, you know, maybe just do 20 minutes. And if you feel like that was pushing it, make sure you do get a rest day tomorrow. And then from there, I feel like you're just, you know, every week or every month more educated on how you feel. And as well as that, keep a diary, so that you can see if it's actually the same every month, then that, that 3rd week last month, I felt the same, and just see if it works for you that way.
Yeah, no, it's definitely about like tracking what's going on and trying to identify if there's any trends, and then you can learn about your cycle and then, you know, apply some fixes to it and make sure that you're looking after yourself. Exactly. In terms of staying active during the different phases, like what are your top tips for staying active?
Well, I suppose, like I would hate to preach walking to people, because I'm the world's worst walker, and I'm always trying to improve that, because I'll happily go to the gym for you like 5 times a week. And I feel like if I'm in a class environment, like I love that, like that fuels me, that helps me, because I like having to keep up with someone, or I like going to the gym and someone coaching me so I can switch off, you know what I mean? And I think that's really important for people as well. If you are feeling tired or you don't know when to push it, is finding the right coach that is suitable for you, and also, you know, learning what suits you. So if you are having a day where you're a little bit tired and it's like, okay, you know, I want to try and get my sessions in, would it suit you to go to a class that day? And what kind of class will suit you? Should you be going in to do a PT session today where you're learning more about your strength, or should you just be going in and switching off and doing a HIIT class for 40 minutes? So that's what I would say as well. But also something that's in the back of my mind all the time is making sure I get my steps up, because I have a nutritionist and she's fantastic. And she's always saying to me, Izzy, like, make sure you're getting your neat workout in as well. So even stuff like coming into the summer now, I'm lucky that I live quite close to town. So I'm going to, hopefully that's a goal for me as well, is just to get my steps up and get more fresh air.
In terms of managing your period while exercising, what are your tips there?
I suppose like similar to what I said lastly, it's just like, listen to your body. You know what I mean? So like if you're having a really, really heavy period and you don't feel like going to the gym today, don't go to the gym today. Go for a walk, do what suits you in that moment. Because I feel like, when you get your period, it can just be so, like for me anyway, it's so different every month. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I can get my period, it's not so heavy, and I can just go about my day. And then other times you need to kind of make allowances for, okay, I'm actually feeling really crampy today. I'm feeling really crappy today as well. And just go for a walk or rest. And again, just listen to your body. Like I wouldn't be saying like, resting all the time, but if you're having a day where you're just not feeling up to it, like don't feel guilty for just resting. But also, as I said, if you don't feel like a gym environment you don't feel comfortable, like if you're on the first day of your period going into a gym environment, do go out for a walk and just again find something that suits you and your body.
Do you remember getting your first period?
I do remember getting my first period because I was still in primary school. So I think I was one of the first people in my class to get it. I can't remember if I was in 5th or 6th class. And when you were sending on the questions as well, I think you said, were you embarrassed by this? And I was trying to think back. And I don't think I was. I think, to be honest, right? Now, this is looking back, so I hope it's correct. But I think I was like proud because it meant that I was a woman. And I suppose because I was one of the first people in my class to get it, I thought it was kind of like, obviously I had told my friends, and I think it was kind of like, oh, okay, what's it like? All these questions. And then I suppose, of course, I was supported at home. I obviously told my mom, and my mom was able to explain to me what it was. And I remember, I don't know if it was a year previous or years and years previous, like I would have been a child, but I remember having a look at her, pads and all of these products and wondering what they were. And I remember her explaining them to me. So like, it was actually quite nice to look back and just realize how supported I was. And it made me think about how people aren't supported, and like just how sad that is, because I feel very privileged that I can look back on that memory and say that that was just something that, was fine because I was educated on it by my mother. And also I suppose I had the sanitary pads and everything else at my disposal, which I know, other people aren't fortunate enough to have. So when you sent in that question, that's what I was thinking of, is like, it's just awful that I suppose in this day and age that everyone still doesn't have access to what they need, especially if they're going through that as a young 11 or 10-year-old like myself.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, I think it's around, there's a lot of young girls can be very self-conscious about it. So that's what I was kind of asking, was like, while getting your first period is a big deal and you can be a bit proud, like, were there times maybe when you were younger that you're a little bit self-conscious about it, or you just always felt there was like a comfortable, safe environment for you?
Yeah, like, I mean, off the top of my head, there's nothing that really sticks out to me, which I'm very grateful for. Because again, like I would have heard stories from friends and people that I know that would have just had like very heavy periods, and just hearing that they had so much fear in school, around, just, I suppose, wondering if they were going to get up off the seat and there was going to be blood on the seat, and I've heard of people having like terrible interactions with teachers and people just not getting it. So I never had something like that, but I really do hope that that's changing, because I would hate for anyone to go into school in this day and age and just feel like really uncomfortable, like, if they were in the middle of a class and a teacher wouldn't let them go to the bathroom. I feel like stuff like that, if that's still going on, that we should be talking about that more, because that definitely needs to change to make people feel more comfortable, and then not look back in 10 years time and to have like shame associated to their period.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of like opening this conversation and promoting more conversation around periods, how can we make people like talk about it so that essentially they're more comfortable in exercise and in sport?
Yeah, like I think that's such an important point. And I think, even just chatting to you now, like I've thought more about my period than I have in quite some time, which I think is great. And obviously there's a platform to put that out here. I think, what's so important is just to talk to one another, and to communicate, because I suppose I'm in the late part of my 20s, and myself and my friends, we talk about our periods all the time. You know, we're talking about, oh my God, we're all so synced this month, or like, you know, we have a wedding to go to in the summer and we're thinking like, who's going to have their periods there? And I suppose it's something that just rolls off the tongue. It's not something that people have to stop and think about. But that's because we're at the later stage of our 20s. And I feel like I would hope, you know, a lot of people are very comfortable, but I would think if you're a teenager and you're feeling self-conscious about this, and I suppose I think of teenagers because that's when you're feeling you're most self-conscious about these things, is just to talk to people and to not like take the taboo away from it. You know what I mean? As in like, say it to people. Like, I mean, if you have your period and you're in sport, like say it to your friend, like, oh my God, you know, I'm going to have my period for the game at the weekend, and open up the conversation, because you could never know that your friend could be feeling really uncomfortable as well. And they're just not saying it because everyone deals with anxieties or shame differently. So I think just opening the conversation, I think maybe there's a bit of work to be done in schools as well, just to make people feel more comfortable talking about it as well. Like, as I was saying, I would hate for anyone to feel uncomfortable if they had to go to the toilet in the middle of class because it was period related, and they were saying, oh no, you went already, you can't go again, and all this kind of shame attached. So I do think, you know, just talking with your friends, making sure that you're getting the message out there to your friends and your family. And then, you know, hopefully maybe teachers might be more open to, you know, just helping teenagers, I suppose, a little bit more with this. But I'd love to see a little bit more done in schools as well, like just having chats around it and making sure that if anyone feels uncomfortable, that there's that, I suppose, safe space to open up about it a little bit more.
Yeah, and certainly like once young girls start talking to each other about it, they can learn so much from each other, and like tips and tricks, like whether it's you know, day-to-day life, or whether it's specifically in school or specifically in sport or whatever it might be. But once the conversation opens, like you're saying, like you're talking with all your friends about it now, and it's something that you're comfortable talking about. But I think, you know, the sooner that happens, the better, because I think once the conversation starts, the floodgates kind of open.
Yes, for sure.
That's all I have anyway today. So thanks so much, Izzy, for coming on and chatting to us about this on the period panel.
Thank you so much for having me.